I've never been good at sleeping. Even as a kid, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to shut my brain off, but it never worked. It was always too loud, like my thoughts were shouting at me, and the quiet just made them worse. I don't know when it started. Maybe when I saw my parents fall apart. They fought. They ignored me. But mostly they were just absent. They were both there, but neither of them ever really saw me. It got to the point where I felt like I was invisible, like I didn't matter, like I couldn't even matter to myself. That's when I decided I wanted to be someone who mattered. I thought maybe medicine could fix me. I'd heard enough people say that doctors save lives, so maybe, just maybe, I could save myself too. The problem was, I wasn't cut out for the emotional side of things. People think medicine is about compassion, but it's mostly about science, numbers, tests, results. People are just things to study, to treat, to fix, or not. I ended up on the night shift at the hospital. Funny thing, at first it wasn't the hours that drew me in. It was the quiet, the emptiness of it all. The night shift felt like a world apart, separated from the real one. The hospital would get slow, the ER would go quiet, and I could finally feel like I was alone, like no one was watching. But the truth? The truth is I wasn't alone. Not by a long shot. I had no idea back then. The rules. Yeah, the rules were something everyone talked about. The night staff, at least. It's like they had this unspoken bond, a shared understanding that some things just couldn't be questioned. You had to follow the rules, or else... Well, no one ever explained what else was, but you knew better than to ask. Rule number 1. Don't talk to the patients after midnight. I thought it was ridiculous at first. What, am I supposed to just ignore them? But after a while, you start noticing the weird stuff. Patients saying strange things in the middle of the night, their eyes wide, as if they can see something you can't. It's unsettling, and you don't want to encourage it. They start asking questions that you can't answer, like, why am I still here? Or do you know what's really going on in this place? You don't talk about it. You just do your job. And rule number 2. Don't leave the bodies in the morgue too long. Move them within an hour, or the room will get hungry. I know it sounds insane, but that's what everyone says. No one really talks about what happens if you break it, but I've heard whispers. The lights flicker in the morgue, and sometimes you swear you can hear something moving in there. But no one wants to be the one to test it, so you just follow the rule. No questions. Rule 3. Never, ever look into the back room mirror after 3 a.m. I didn't understand that one either. What could possibly happen? A reflection's just a reflection, right? But every time I walk past that back room and catch a glimpse of the mirror, there's this feeling. A weird, cold knot in my stomach. You don't look. You don't dare. And then there's the last one. If a patient survives critical injuries, they're no longer your responsibility. That's the rule I still don't understand. The one I never questioned. Until now. There's something about it that doesn't sit right with me. When I first started, I thought it was just about the process. I mean, hospitals have their own protocols, right? But I've started to see things. Patients who are left behind. Transferred. But no one talks about it. Tonight's shift is no different. It's quiet. Too quiet. I'm sitting in the back room, flipping through charts, trying not to think too hard. But then, the door swings open, and I see a familiar face. It's a patient who's been in and out of here for months, and something's off. I'm not sure why, but when I see him now, I swear I've seen him before he came into the ER. The memory is fuzzy, like a dream that's been buried too long. But I can't shake the feeling that this man is somehow important. I walk toward him, but the moment I get close, his eyes snap open, wide and terrified, and then he whispers, "Do you want to know what's really happening here?" I freeze. My blood runs cold. What the hell is he talking about? I can feel my heartbeat in my ears, thumping too loudly. I want to back away, but I don't. I can't. Something keeps me in place. He stares at me, pleading, and then, just as quickly as he woke up, his eyes roll back in his head, and he slips back into unconsciousness. I stand there for a second, my hands shaking, trying to push the words out of my head. What did he mean? But before I can think any more about it, the night shift nurse walks in, as calm as ever, checking the monitors, making notes. She doesn't seem bothered at all. I'm not sure what's real anymore. And then a loud crash from down the hall. My heart skips and I turn instinctively. It's the morgue. Something's in there, I know it. I rush to check on it, but as soon as I push the door open, I freeze. The room is different. The lights are dimming, flickering, and the cold rushes over me like a wave. But worse than that, the bodies I moved earlier are gone. There's nothing but empty, cold tables where they should be. I hear something, a soft scraping, like nails against the floor. No one's supposed to be in here. I turn around, and there, standing at the entrance, is one of the orderlies. His face is pale, his eyes hollow, but he says nothing. Just watches me. And as he steps back into the shadows, I can't shake the feeling that I've just crossed a line I can never uncross. I take a step back, eyes never leaving the orderly in the doorway. He doesn't say anything, but there's something about the way he's staring. His eyes dark and empty, like he's waiting for me to do something, like he already knows what I'm going to do next. I should have turned around. I should have just walked away. But instead, I walk towards him, slowly, cautiously, trying to shake off the cold that's creeping up my spine. I try to speak, but my voice feels wrong, like it's being strangled from the inside. What's going on? I ask, though the words feel hollow the moment they leave my mouth. He doesn't answer. He just steps aside, letting me pass him into the dark hallway. It smells strange, like disinfectant mixed with something deeper. A metallic scent that I can't quite place. I glance back at the morgue door, still open, but I know I can't go back. Not without answers. I follow him down the hall, and I notice that none of the lights are working in this part of the hospital. The fluorescent bulbs flicker intermittently, casting strange, elongated shadows along the walls. It's like the building itself is breathing, sighing in the darkness. I try to speak again. What's happening here? What are we really doing? The question feels like it's on the tip of my tongue, desperate to be asked, but I don't know what I want the answer to be anymore. The orderly doesn't speak, just motions for me to follow. We turn a corner, and that's when I see it. A door, hidden at the end of the hallway, covered in peeling paint, the metal handle bent at an unnatural angle. It doesn't look like it should be part of a hospital, more like something from a forgotten place, a room that shouldn't exist in any building that claims to save lives. It doesn't fit with the rest of the sterile, clinical environment. This is something darker, something secret. The orderly opens the door and my stomach tightens. It's a surgery room. But it's not like any surgery room I've ever seen. Inside there are tables, dozens of them, each one with a patient strapped to it. But they're not unconscious. They're awake, their eyes wide, their mouths gagged, struggling against the restraints. And they're alive somehow, even though they shouldn't be. Their skin is pale, veins bulging, and the equipment around them looks wrong. It's not medical. It's something else. Something that doesn't belong here. My breath catches in my throat as I see a familiar face, one of the patients from earlier in the week. She's lying on the table, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. But she doesn't look like herself. Her eyes are wide with terror, and she seems to be staring directly at me, pleading for help without a sound. I want to scream, but I can't. Something's lodged in my throat, blocking my voice. The orderly steps aside, and I'm left standing there in the center of the room, surrounded by these people, these bodies. I feel my knees go weak, but I force myself to stay upright. I glance around, searching for an explanation, but there's nothing. Just more tables, more victims, more instruments that should never exist in a hospital. "What is this?" I finally whisper. I don't know who I'm asking. I don't care anymore. I just need to know. But before I can even finish the sentence, the door slams shut behind me, and I spin around, heart pounding. The orderly is gone. Vanished. I'm not alone in here. I know that. The patients are staring at me, their eyes pleading, some even silently mouthing words I can't understand. But what they're saying isn't important. Not right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. The walls are closing in, the air growing thick, suffocating. I stagger back, desperate for the door, but the room is shifting. It's as if the walls are pressing in, and the sound of my breath is drowning out everything else. It's hard to think clearly, hard to stay focused. Then, the lights flicker one last time, and something catches my eye. A glass case in the corner of the room, covered in dust. Inside the case, there are organs, preserved, carefully labeled, arranged in sterile glass jars. They're human organs, human parts. I feel a wave of nausea hit me as I stumble forward, drawn to the glass case. There's a small note taped to the side. "For sale." My breath catches in my throat again. The reality is sinking in now. This hospital isn't just treating people. It's harvesting them, selling their bodies, their parts, for profit. I step back, my heart racing. I've been working here for months, surrounded by these people, these victims, and I never saw it. I never knew. I turn and stumble toward the door, desperate to get out, but as my hand touches the handle, I hear a voice. "It's too late for you now." I freeze, my hand still on the door. The voice is soft, almost like a whisper, but it's clear. It's coming from behind me. I turn, and there, standing in the doorway, is the head of the night shift, the one who trained me. She's smiling, but it's not a comforting smile. It's cold. It's knowing. She steps into the room, and I can see it now. The darkness in her eyes, the same darkness that I've seen in everyone who works the night shift. The same emptiness. "You've been here long enough to know the rules," she says, her voice calm, too calm. "And you've broken them, all of them." I can't breathe. My chest tightens, my hands shaking. "What do you mean? What's going on here?" She steps closer, her smile widening. "You were chosen, Alex. You always were. You were never meant to leave. The hospital needs you." She leans in, her voice a whisper. "And the rules?" "The rules were just there to make sure you stayed in line. But now, well, now you're part of the process." My mind spins. Chosen? I was part of this? I didn't know. The door slams behind me. There's no way out, no way to escape. And as the darkness closes in around me, I realize that the hospital I've been working in was never meant to save lives. It was meant to take them. And I was never the healer. I was the tool. The last thing I hear is the soft sound of footsteps, followed by the screeching of metal against flesh. Then, nothing. I don't know how long I've been standing there. The air thick with the stench of antiseptic and fear, my body frozen in place. My head is spinning, and all I can do is focus on the voice of the night shift head as it echoes in my mind. "You were chosen." I want to scream, but my throat is dry, like I'm choking on the truth. I never saw it coming. I thought I was just a worker here. I thought I was just doing my job. But I was never just doing my job, was I? I was a cog in a much darker machine, one that had been working long before I arrived, and would keep grinding long after I was gone. The head of the night shift steps forward, her smile widening as she watches my realization dawn. You were always meant to be part of the system, Alex. Your entire life, you've been a test subject, a candidate. You just didn't know it. Why? I croak, my voice barely audible. Why me? She tilts her head, as if the question is amusing. Because you're disposable, just like the rest of them. You don't get it, do you? You're perfect for this place. You've always been. The hospital's business isn't about saving lives. It's about trading them. People are just commodities here. When we're done with them, when they're used up, we sell them. I feel my knees go weak, and I stumble backward, barely catching myself against one of the tables. The room spins again, but I force myself to focus. She's not done yet. There's more. I can see it in her eyes. But why? My voice cracks, desperate for some kind of explanation that makes sense. Why don't you just let them die peacefully? She laughs, a short, sharp sound that cuts through the air like glass shattering. You don't get it, do you? These people don't just die. They're used. Every part of them is worth something. Skin, organs, bones, even blood. We don't let them die until we've taken everything we need from them. Some of them survive, long enough for us to use them in different ways. But we don't just take the easy stuff. We need their soul too. My blood turns to ice. What? What are you talking about? Her smile doesn't waver. We don't just sell the organs, Alex. The patients who come here, they're part of something much bigger. Something that you're going to help us finish. You'll see soon enough. I don't know what she means by that, but the feeling in the pit of my stomach tells me it's worse than I can imagine. I try to back away, but she's already moving toward the door. We can't just let you go, Alex. Not now. Not after all this. The last words she says before leaving the room chill me to the core. You've already seen too much. The door clicks shut, and I'm alone. For now. I stand there, breathless, trying to process everything. What is happening here? How long has this been going on? And more importantly, what is my role in all of it? I glance around the room, the patients, the bodies, the machines, and I can't shake the feeling that something is watching me. I'm not alone in here, I know it. I've been too quiet, too still for too long. There's a noise behind me, a low creaking sound. I spin around, but there's nothing. Just the shadows, stretching and swaying. The walls feel like they're closing in on me again, and my breath grows shallow as panic starts to rise in my chest. Then I see it. A figure standing in the corner of the room. Not one of the patients, but a person. A man. He's not moving, just standing there watching me. I freeze. For a moment, I think I've imagined him. But then he steps forward, and I see the glint of something in his hand. I don't have time to react. Before I can move, he's in front of me, pressing something cold and metallic into my side. You've seen too much too, Alex, he says, his voice calm, almost gentle. You're not getting out of here. I stare at him, trying to make sense of it. Who are you? He doesn't answer. Instead, he grabs me by the arm, dragging me towards the back of the room where the other patients are still strapped to the tables. We don't need you anymore. You're done. I'm terrified. I want to scream, to fight back, but my body feels like it's made of stone. I can't breathe. I can't think. Every part of me is screaming to run, but my legs are frozen in place. Then, a door opens. I don't know where it leads, but it's my only chance. With all the strength I can muster, I yank my arm free and sprint toward it. I don't care where it leads. I just need to get out. My heart is pounding in my chest, my breath ragged and uneven. I hear him shout behind me, but I don't stop. The door slams shut behind me, and I find myself in a narrow hallway. My legs are shaking, my whole body shaking, but I keep running. I can't stop. Not now. I don't know where I'm going, but I have to get out. I don't care if I'm running deeper into the hospital's twisted system. I don't care if I'm running into another trap. I just need to keep moving. And then, boom. The door to the hallway bursts open, and the orderly from earlier appears again, blocking my way. But this time, there's something different about him. His eyes aren't the same. They're dark, empty. "You can't run from it, Alex," he says, his voice low. "It's part of you now." I back up, my breath quickening, panic flooding my veins. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He steps forward, and I can't move fast enough. My mind races, but there's nothing I can do. The orderly lifts his hand, revealing a syringe. A chill runs down my spine. It's too late. It's all too late. But then, a loud crash. I hear something. Someone else, another figure coming toward us. The orderly's attention shifts for just a moment. That's all I need. I turn and run again, this time down a side hallway I've never seen before. I have no idea where it leads. All I know is that I need to get away. There is no escape. That's the thought that comes to me as I run. But I don't stop. I keep going, hoping that somehow, some way, I'll find a way out. I don't know if I'm running toward freedom or if I'm just running deeper into a nightmare. But I keep going. And somewhere in the distance, I hear the faint sound of sirens. Maybe someone's coming for me. Maybe they're not. But I don't look back. I can't. The sirens grow louder, but I can't afford to hope. I can't afford to believe that anyone is coming to save me. The hospital is a labyrinth, and I'm just one more piece of meat in its dark machinery. Each step I take feels like I'm moving deeper into its jaws, and no matter how fast I run, I can't outrun the truth. My breath is ragged now, and my legs are starting to give out beneath me. Sweat beads on my forehead, and my heart is hammering in my chest. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The sound of the footsteps behind me is unmistakable. Someone is following. The orderly? Someone else? I don't know, but I can't risk looking back. I reach another hallway, another sterile, cold space. There's no sign of anyone else, just the sound of my breathing, heavy and erratic, echoing against the walls. I try to slow down, to quiet my mind, to think of some way out of here. But it's too late for that. The doors at the end of the hall are locked. There's nowhere left to go. And then I hear it. A voice, soft, almost a whisper. "Alex." I freeze. It's the voice of the night shift head. "What do you want?" I croak, my throat dry. I don't hear anything at first, just the sound of my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. Then the voice comes again, closer now, like she's standing just behind me. "You think you can escape, but you're wrong. There's nowhere left to run." I turn to face her, but there's nothing there. No one. "You can't leave, Alex," she continues, the voice surrounding me, growing louder with each passing second. "You were made for this place. You were chosen." I feel my knees go weak. I try to take a step forward, but my feet won't move. My body is betraying me. Suddenly I hear something different. A sound that makes my blood run cold. The unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. Heavy, deliberate. Not just one person, but several. And they're all coming for me. I turn and sprint down the hall, but it's like the walls are closing in. The space seems to narrow with each step I take, each breath I draw. The hospital feels alive now, suffocating me, trapping me in its maze. It's as if the entire building is awake, aware of my every move. I push through another set of double doors, not even bothering to check if they're locked, and then I stop dead in my tracks. I'm back in the surgery room, the same one where I first saw the patients strapped to the tables, their eyes wide and terrified. They're all still there, but they're different now. Their eyes follow me as I move into the room, their gazes filled with something darker, something that wasn't there before. The patients are watching me with intent, as if they know something I don't. I want to scream, but the words don't come. I feel like I'm suffocating, like I'm drowning in the weight of the truth. The door slams shut behind me, and I spin around to see the night shift head standing there, her face unreadable. "It's time," she says, and her voice sends a chill down my spine. "You've seen everything now. You've been part of this place from the very beginning." I step back, heart pounding in my chest. "No, this can't be happening. You chose this, Alex," she interrupts, her voice cutting through me like a blade. "Every choice you made led you here. Every step you took. You were never meant to be a nurse. You were always meant to be a part of the system." I shake my head, my mind reeling. "No, I never—" "You did," she says, her tone final. "This hospital was built for people like you. And you've always known. You've always been a part of it, even when you didn't realize. You were the one who was meant to be here." I take another step back, my legs unsteady beneath me. "No, I'm not part of this. I won't be." Her eyes narrow, and for the first time I see something in them. Something cold. Something almost pitying. "You've already broken the rules, Alex. You can't leave. There's no escaping now." She gestures to the patients around us. "They know. They've seen it too. You'll be one of them. But first, you need to understand what you've done." I don't understand. I don't know what she's talking about. All I know is that I need to get out. I need to escape no matter the cost. I turn to run, but something grips my arm, tight, unyielding. I scream, trying to pull away, but my body won't obey. The hands, too many hands, pull me back. I look around, horrified, and realize the patients, the ones who should be dead, are moving. Their bodies twitch, their mouths open, but they can't speak. They can only pull me closer. "Stop!" I shout, but the words are useless. I try to push them away, but their grip only tightens. They're dragging me toward one of the tables, one of the empty tables. I thrash, panic flooding my veins, but it's no use. The night shift head stands by, watching, waiting, her smile cold and unfeeling. I don't know what they want from me, but I know one thing for sure. There's no escaping. Not this time. I've become a part of the very thing I was trying to escape. I struggle harder, desperation creeping into my voice. "What do you want from me?" The night shift head steps closer. "You were always meant to be part of the system, Alex. You were chosen, just like them." I look at the patients around me, their eyes full of knowing, understanding, and then it hits me. I am one of them now. I'm part of the process. I was never supposed to leave. I wasn't just a worker. I was a product. Tears blur my vision, but I don't have time to cry. I'm on the table now, strapped down, my body trembling as they prepare to use me. This place, this hospital, is a machine, and I was always just a cog. The last thing I hear is the hiss of a needle being drawn from the syringe, and I know this is it. This is how it ends. The lights flicker. Everything goes dark. The darkness is suffocating. I can't feel my arms. I can't feel my legs. My entire body is numb, as though I've been submerged in ice water. The last thing I remember is the hiss of the syringe, the cold sting of the needle sliding into my vein. I should have been terrified, but instead, it felt inevitable. I don't know how much time has passed. It could have been seconds, or hours, or days. But when I finally open my eyes, I'm not where I was. I'm no longer strapped to the cold metal table. I'm lying on the floor of a small, dimly lit room. The walls are cracked, the paint peeling in places, and the smell of antiseptic is thick in the air. I push myself up, my body aching. My head spins as I try to orient myself, but everything feels wrong. The room looks familiar, but it doesn't make sense. The table where I was once bound is now covered in old, dried blood. There are strange markings on the floor, symbols I don't recognize, and what appears to be a door on the far side of the room, its hinges rusted and broken. I stumble to my feet, my legs shaking beneath me. My heart is pounding, and a cold sweat breaks out on my forehead. What happened? Where am I? I move toward the door, my footsteps hesitant, the room around me feeling like a cage. Every instinct tells me to run, but something else, something dark, holds me back. I feel like I'm being watched. I can almost hear the sound of breathing in the air, too quiet to pinpoint, but unmistakable. As I reach the door and place my hand on the handle, I hear a faint scraping sound from behind me. My heart skips a beat, and I whirl around. There's nothing there, just the shadows, stretching across the floor like long dark fingers. I breathe out in relief and turn back to the door. But just as I grip the handle, the scraping sound comes again. Closer now. And this time, I don't ignore it. I whip around again, my eyes wide, my pulse racing. There, in the far corner of the room, a figure stands. A person. Or at least, what's left of a person. The sight makes my stomach churn. The figure is tall and thin, its body draped in shadows. Its face is pale and gaunt, the skin pulled tight over its skull, its eyes wide and hollow. It doesn't move, but it's staring directly at me, its mouth slowly stretching into a twisted, unnatural grin. My body freezes, my throat goes dry. I know this figure. I know it. It's the same thing that I saw in the surgery room, the thing that was meant to be dead. You, I whisper, but the words die in my throat. The figure tilts its head, as though considering me. Then, in a voice that doesn't seem to come from its mouth at all, it speaks. You think you can escape, Alex? I stumble backward, panic setting in. No, I'm not. You already have, the figure interrupts, its voice a low rasp. But you can never escape it. I try to reach for the door again, but my legs are shaking too violently. I can't think straight. The room feels smaller now, the air thicker. My chest is tight, like I'm suffocating. You're part of the system, the figure continues, its voice wrapping around me like a cold embrace. The hospital's blood runs through you now, Alex. You can't outrun it. I want to scream, but the sound catches in my throat. I push against the door with all my strength, but it won't budge. It feels like the entire building is shifting, closing in on me. And then, as if in response to the figure's words, I hear it. The soft click of a door unlocking. My heart skips. The figure too seems to recognize the sound, its grin stretching wider as it starts to fade into the shadows. I don't wait. I throw myself at the door, wrenching it open, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I burst out into the hallway, my mind racing. This is it. This is my chance. But then I stop, because standing in front of me, blocking the exit, is the night shift head. You're not leaving, she says, her voice cold, final. It's too late for you. I try to find the words, but they're stuck in my throat. My mind is numb. I want to ask what she means, but I already know the answer. I try to push past her, but she doesn't move. She just stands there, watching me. That same calculating smile on her face. You've already seen everything, she says. It's too late to turn back now. I feel the weight of her words pressing down on me, suffocating me. There's no escape. This was never about me being a nurse, or about the patients. This was about me. I look down the hallway. There's no way out. No way to escape. I turn back to her, my body shaking. You're wrong, I whisper, my voice barely audible. I can still leave. I can. She shakes her head slowly, and for the first time, I see a hint of something else in her eyes. Something almost sad. No, Alex, you can't. And just like that, everything goes dark. The lights flicker out, the floor beneath my feet giving way. I'm falling. I'm falling deeper and deeper into the hospital's depths. The last thing I hear is the sound of the figure's voice, louder now, echoing around me. "You're part of the system now, Alex. You always have been." And everything goes black.